Now, let us get into second step. Can you recall what is the second step? Can you recall Ogadim? So second will be G. G stands for gathering. So second steps involve gathering of information. So why do we need to gather information? Okay, because we need to identify the client's loss exposure or the potential risks that may happen to the client. Without complete information, we cannot perform accurate analysis, and without proper analysis, we cannot provide proper recommendations. So, but there are still scenarios or events that we cannot get complete information. Maybe the client himself or herself has no such information, or the document may have lost. So these are times that when we make assumptions. Okay? In financial planning, regardless of whichever a part of financial plan, when we need to make assumptions, we try to make conservative assumptions. Okay? So if we think that the loss could be ranging from 500,000 to 600,000, without proper data, I would suggest that we should better assume the loss to be 600,000. Okay? But of course, later on, when we come up with strategies, if let's say the resources to cover this is not sufficient, then we can still make some adjustment. Okay, so what are the steps involved in gathering of information? First, we have detailed discussion with our clients. When we talk about details discussion, it could be messy because the conversation can start anywhere, can start from any point. So it is always good that we have a structure form, and the most common method that we normally use will be fact-finding form. Okay, so it's set as a guide where we want to start our discussion and what are the informations that we want to collect. So the second method will be physical examination or observations. Okay, when we are with clients, you may want to visit his house or his working environment so that we can observe what are the potential risks, what are the current conditions of his environment that may have any that may cause some loss later on. So this is by observation or physical examinations. And the third method, documents verification. Okay, so the normal one will be like policy review, or what are the coverage that they already got in place now. Okay, so we would always try to verify it through viewing at the actual document so that we know what is already there. If let's say the client have a loan with any banks, so the client may not know what are the actual outstanding loan amount. So we may also ask for the annual statement for us to verify whether the information are correct or not. So this is also part of the duty of a financial advisor or financial planner to do the due diligence. Okay? We will use a combination of all the methods above, but we still need a guide so that we will, as we go along the way, we will try to identify the risks that may related to client. So as a guide, normally clients are exposed to 3 classes of risk. So we should pay attention into these 3 classes. The first one will be property risk. The second one will be liability loss exposures. And the third one will be personal loss exposures. So we start with property risk. Property risk will only arise if clients or a person own a property or asset. Okay, for example, damage to a vehicle. So if a client or a person doesn't own a vehicle, the risk will not be there. Okay. The property risk can also be direct or indirect. Direct will be for cases like damage or disappearance. Example of a scenario will be like theft, accidents, fire, etc. So it causes direct damage to the property or asset. Okay. The second part will be indirect. So the indirect part will be like loss of income, okay, loss of rental income, or maybe fire of a warehouse. Although the owner already suffered the loss of losing the warehouse, he or she may even still face the claim by the clients, by his or her clients, because they may have product stored in the person warehouse. So these are all indirect loss. And the third one will be loss of business income, because we cannot continue to operate the business. So it will also cause income. And these are all the example. So the other example is accident again, vehicle damage. So that is direct impact. But what are the indirect impact? Injury to the driver, injury to the passenger, and if let's say we are unable to work for a period of time, the loss of income. So we can say that indirect income is also known as consequences loss. Okay, so the loss that arise as a consequences of the direct loss damage to the property or asset. So these are property risks. So the second part will be liability loss exposure. In Malaysia, a person can be held legally liable for some wrongdoings that resulted in harming a third party, causing either bodily, reputation, or property. The damage can be on any one of these three. It could be bodily, reputation, or property. So when we talk about bodily harm, I think it is the easiest to understand among the three. It could be injury, it could be death, okay, to another person. Property, it could be causing a damage to another person's property. But what about reputation? Okay, it is defined like causing damage to another person's reputation, or we can say that causing a disgrace to another person, or discredit another person, or shaming another person. So these are the example of causing harm to another person's reputation. Almost the same example that I have mentioned earlier. A pebble flew off a truck on the road. Okay, the truck was full load carrying pebbles, transporting pebbles, and one of the pebbles flew away and struck a motorcyclist. So it may cause either bodily and motorcycle damage, or it may cause both. Okay, so the motorcyclist can claim against the truck. So these are the liability that loss exposure by the truck owner. Okay. The third one will be personal loss exposure. So what are the personal loss exposure? So these are risks that may cause loss or reduce in earned income. First. Second, it may cause additional expenses to the person. And third, it may need the person to liquidate the asset accumulated. So can you think of some events correspondence to these three conditions? Loss or reduce in income, additional expenses, or liquidation of asset accumulation. Okay, so the dominant personal risk factor in terms of financial planning are premature death. So this is causing the loss of earned income. or earning ability. Additional expenses. So in the event of critical illness or health deterioration, so it will incur additional expenses, and also reduce in earned income. So the risk could cause more than one consequences. In the event of retirement, it will also cause reduce of income. When we retire, the income is expected to reduce if, let's say, still continue to have income. And the second part will be, it will cause a person need to liquidate the assets accumulated. Okay, same go to education. Over the time, when we do education planning, we accumulate the assets, but when the event take place, okay, so we will need to liquidate those assets accumulated for the purpose of education funding. Okay, if a client decided to transfer all these risks, then one of the common method will be insurance. Okay, means that transfer some of the risk to insurers. So in Malaysia, property and liability loss or risk will be covered under general insurance. Okay, for example, fire insurance, motor vehicle insurance, professional indemnity, which is also a form of a liability, potential loss on a liability. These are all covered under general insurance. And when we talk about personal loss, they are mainly covered by life insurance. But it is not always the case, because events for personal loss, such as hospitalization and surgical insurance, they are also provided by some general insurance company. Okay, accidental death or personal accident, they are also covered by general insurance company. But generally, property and liability will be covered under general insurance company, and personal loss will be covered by life insurance company. So we have concluded step 2. So we have discussed about the methods, which include detailed discussion with guide or fact-finding form. Okay, because detailed discussion may be messy, so we use a fact-finding form to guide us through the process. And then we need using the method of observations or physical examinations. Okay, this may require some skills from practitioners. Okay, so over time, as we accumulate our experience, we may get better with this observation method. And the third one will be verification of documents and facts. Okay, while we gather all this information, we need to pay attention to 3 classes of risks. Can you recall the 3 classes of risks? The first one will be property loss, second one will be liability loss, and the third one will be personal loss.